Let me tell you a very, very interesting story. Okay?
Not every case comes wrapped up with a neat little bow. Some cases leave us with more questions than answers, and Fox Hollow Farms, that's one of them. But here's something important to remember: everything in this episode comes from one man, Mark Goodyear. His words, his accusations, his version of events. And as we'll see, his story isn't always consistent. In fact, Mark has been inconsistent throughout his retelling events, but one thing is clear: he wants to control the narrative. And that starts with a riddle he's repeated multiple times: I'm not an accomplice. I'm not a victim. I was never attacked. What am I? He wasn't eliminated as a suspect, but he wasn't officially tied to the crimes either. Yet, almost everything we know about what happened at Fox Hollow Farm comes from him. Mark says he met Herb at Club 501 in August of 1994, standing in front of the missing person posters. They talked about the disappearances, and then in a move that doesn't quite add up, Mark says he pushed Herb out of the door, but Herb didn't resist. Next thing you know, they're in a car heading straight for Fox Hollow Farm. According to Mark, this visit at his house felt uneasy, yet he stayed the whole night and part of the morning. He exchanged numbers with Herb, stayed in contact, and even had him over for dinner. And despite repeatedly calling Herb a creep and that he's insane, he continued to meet up with him. He later claimed Herb was stalking him, but then admitted to following Herb into bars, standing on tables, and warning people that Herb was a killer. He paints himself as the victim, yet time and time again, he chose to stay in Herb's orbit. In fact, their relationship grew so close that, according to Mark, Herb eventually confessed to unaliving 56 people. Whether out of fear, fascination, or something else entirely, Mark stayed in Herb's world and even claimed to be terrified of him. Then Mark's story takes a strange turn. He says one night he grabbed a vacuum hose from the pool, gently pressed it against his throat, and then pulled it away. Mark also claims that he was the one who drugged Herb, knocking him out for just 40 minutes, and that Herb actually thanked him for it. But how much of this is true? And how much is just Mark trying to control the story? Then there's the missing evidence. Herb was a huge videographer. He had cameras, recordings, equipment, and according to Mark, a hidden video recorder in the ceiling of his basement.